Hello and welcome to the Compensatory Education Program Monitoring presentation on allocations, reporting, supplement not supplant, comparability, and inventory for Title I Part A funds. My name is Micah Spangler and I'm joined by my colleague Girk Jagpal. We will be representing the Title I Monitoring and Support Office to provide information regarding to evidence necessary for these items. This training presentation will focus on CE items 11, 13, 14, and 16. Following this pre-recorded presentation, there will be an opportunity for LEAs to ask questions and receive feedback. Please keep in mind that you may always reach out to your region's assigned reviewer with specific questions regarding the federal program monitoring or the compensatory education program instrument. The first item is CE 11, Allocations and Reporting. The LEA must disperse Title I Part A funds as reserved in the Consolidation Application and Reporting System, or CARS. An LEA receiving more than $500,000 in Title I Part A funds shall reserve at least 1% of its allocation to assist schools for parent and family engagement activities. If an LEA receives less than $500,000 of Title I funds, this does not apply to you. Within CARS, the LEA should reserve Title I Part A funds as necessary to serve homeless children. There is no specific limit to the amount of funds that are reserved for homeless children. LEAs should also reserve Title I funds to serve children and local institutions for neglected and delinquent children. The LEA must use the same measure of poverty when determining poverty levels. For example, free and reduced price meals should be measured consistently among each of the schools within the district. The LEA shall also designate as eligible any schools which has at least 35% of the students with low-income families. If a school has a population of at least 35% Title I students, that school may be designated as a Title I school. The LEA shall designate and serve a school that is not eligible to receive Title I funds, but was eligible and served in the preceding fiscal year. This only applies for one additional fiscal year. The LEA shall elect not to serve an eligible school that has a higher percentage of children from low-income families. No more than 15% of funds allocated to an LEA for any fiscal year can carry over to the next year. The LEA should monitor their Title I carryover every fiscal year to ensure they maintain a carryover threshold of 15% or less. If an LEA exceeds the 15% threshold, they may apply for and be granted a waiver once every 3 years. If a carryover waiver is granted, the LEA will be asked to provide a plan explaining how they intend to spend down the carryover. This slide provides an example of the three-part reconciliation process of Title I Part A funds. The first component is a reported CARS school site allocation. Secondly, the site allocation should match the total amount of Title I expenditures that are budgeted within the School Plan for Student Achievement, or SIPSA, at the selected school site. Thirdly, the actual Title I expenditures should reflect the same amount within the previous fiscal document, such as the school site's general ledger. These three components should be in alignment. The evidence requested for CE 11 include 1. The Title I Part A general ledgers for the LEA and each sample school selected for the FPM review. 2. The LEA's Title I reservation and services. And 3. The school plan for student achievement for each sampled school site. The CE reviewer will use the general ledgers to verify the total amount of Title I expenditures to reflect what the LEA has reported in CARS for the district and each school site selected for review. The LEA should provide a summary document to fully account for the district level Title I required and authorized reservations and services as reported in CARS. The SIPSA for each selected school site is necessary to verify that the budgeted amount of Title I funds match the site's allocation reported in CARS. The budgeted expenditures within the SIPSA must also be associated with the specific goals and strategies to address the student needs identified following a comprehensive needs assessment. CE 13 includes the requirements for demonstrating supplement, not supplant. If the LEA is a single school or charter school, this item will not be monitored during an FPM review. This slide indicates that the district must use Title I Part A funds to supplement their state and local funds. This ensures that the school sites will receive state and local funds that they are entitled to receive, even in the absence of Title I Part A funds. To demonstrate compliance with supplement, not supplant, the LEA must show that there is a method for how they allocate their state and local funds. Usually, LEAs provide a spreadsheet or a document that clearly demonstrates how the state and local funds are allocated to the school sites. Sometimes this documentation also includes how positions are provided to school sites out of the state and local funds. In order to demonstrate compliance for CE 13, the LEA will need to provide the following evidence. Number one, a methodology document such as an Excel spreadsheet with formulas. Please also provide a brief narrative explaining the spreadsheet and any other documents provided. As a reminder, the methodology document only needs to include state and local funds. Number two, duty statements must be provided for any Title I funded employees at the district level or at the school site selected for the FPM review. I will now pass it over to Girk to discuss the requirements of item CE 14.
Thank you, Micah. Hi, everyone. My name is Girk Jagpal, and I'll be covering CE 14 and CE 16. So CE 14 covers the requirements for comparability of services to ensure that Title I schools are comparable to non-Title I schools. This item requires that the LEA have written assurances showing comparability of services across all schools in the district. This item also requires that the LEA develop procedures for compliance and maintain records that are updated biannually to demonstrate compliance. So to demonstrate compliance with CE 14, the LEA will need to provide us with the following evidence requests. Provide their comparability written assurances and policies. Most LEAs meet this requirement by providing their BPAR 6171 along with their current LEA-wide salary schedules. Then you will also need to provide your comparability calculation forms and supporting data to show all schools are comparable by class sizes. This form can be found on the CDE's website. CE 16 is the equipment inventory. For this item, LEA spending Title I funds on equipment need to maintain a historical inventory record for each piece of equipment with an acquisition cost of $1,500 or more per unit. This used to be $500 per unit, but now has increased to $1,500. The question we have been getting is, if we have had items purchased in the past with a unit value of 500, do we still need to include those in our equipment inventory? When we review, we will be looking for historical inventories that have items with a unit value of 1,500 or more. And then we have capital expenditures, which are now items with a unit value of $10,000 or more. And those can be allowable with prior written approval from the CDE. So you must still follow the application approval process in order to make any capital expenditures with Title I. Continuing on with the equipment inventory requirements, equipment purchased with Title I Part A funds with a current per unit fair market value of $10,000 may be retained by the non-federal entity or sold with a certain percentage of the current market value or proceeds from the sale going back to the state educational agency. Equipment with a current per unit fair market value of $10,000 or less may be retained, sold, or otherwise disposed of with no obligation to the state educational agency. The next two slides go over the actual historical inventory and the information you'll want to ensure it contains. The inventory should include the type and description of the item, the model or name, any available serial numbers, the funding source, in this case it would be Title I Part A, the federal award identification number, who holds the title, and when the item was acquired. The historical inventory should also include the original cost of the item, the percentage of federal participation in the project costs for the federal award under which the property was acquired. Because Title I Part A budgets are usually large, most of your items funded with Title I will be 100% funded with Title I and not split funded with another funding source. You will want to include the physical location of the item, usually the item's current condition, and if the item has been transferred, replaced, disposed due to it being obsolete or unusable. If the item has been disposed, you will want to include any disposition data, including the date of disposal, the sale price or method used to determine the current fair market value of the item. This slide right here mentions that the LEA must complete a physical inventory of the property and the results must be reconciled at least once every 2 years. And for more information on purchases and disposal of equipment, you can visit the Title I Capital Expenditures webpage at https://www.cdE.capitalexpenditure.asp. So here are the evidence you will want to submit to meet compliance for CE16, a historical inventory record going as far back as possible for each piece of equipment with an acquisition cost of $1,500 or more per item that was purchased with Title I Part A funds at the LEA level and at each sampled school. For review purposes, we will only check the sampled schools, but you'll want to make sure each Title I school in the district, even though they're not being reviewed, is maintaining a historical inventory. If applicable, you will have to provide capital expenditure approvals, and then finally evidence of an actual physical inventory taking place within the last 2 years. If you have additional questions, here's the contact information for our office. We are the Title I Monitoring Support Office. Our phone number is 916-319-0854, and our email address is timso@cde.ca.gov. Contact information for individual TIMSO program reviewers can be found on the California Department of Education Title I Part A Monitoring and Support webpage at www.cde.ca.gov/SP/1/TIMSO.ASP. So that concludes our pre-recorded session on CE 11, 13, 14, and 16. Next, we will join you for a live Q&A.